So this is really just a 1 year update video for people that are interested to understand what it's like to have one of these cars. It's my first kind of sports Grand Tourer, quite expensive car for me as well. So yeah, this is the 2013 Lotus Evora S Sports Racer. So it's the 345 horsepower variant, and it's a sports racer. So this isn't to go through all of the packs. I do actually have another video for that if people are that bothered, or just Google it. It's basically got all the options. Lotus just chucked everything at it. So it's just had its service and its MOT. It flew through its service and MOT. The only problem it did have was there was some oil on the left rear shock. So not a leak, no dripping, and apparently it was just a tiny bit of oil. But I'll probably get them changed in the next 6 months or so, because that's just not something you really want to have to think about, especially as I want to do a track day next year in the car. So mechanical problems, that's it. That's the only mechanical problem, which isn't actually a problem at all, that I've had with the car. And in case you're wondering, it's got 18,000 miles on it. So I don't know. Yeah, that's it. I think that's pretty good, to be fair. Electrical problems. So this is a known issue. The headlight cluster here has a load of LEDs in it. I did notice once that 3 of them weren't working. Literally once, and ever since then, every time I've looked, it's been absolutely fine. I don't want to replace the headlight because the kind of loser in me likes the Lotus writing on this one. If you get new ones, you lose that, and also it's, I don't know, something like over £1,000 to replace the cluster. I know there's a fix being discussed on the forums, but I haven't really looked into that yet until it becomes a proper issue for me. The rear sub doesn't work. There is current going to those. The rear sub, the wires were checked, but the rear sub doesn't work. I know, again, it's a known issue. They're awful subs. It's such a, it's quite a small cabin, so I'm just not worried about it. Yeah, I'm not going to fix it. I can't be bothered, if I'm honest. It doesn't make enough of a difference to the sound of the stereo for me anyway. Having said that, I wouldn't know because it was always broken. But from what I've read, they're not very good. The stereo, the SD card slot is mashed. The previous owner put the wrong size SD card in there, so now I can't do updates to the software for the sat nav, so I get a constant message that says update, update, and I can't. So not a problem with what was put in the car, more how, user error. So will be getting a new head unit at some point soon. What else? Bodywork. Bodywork. So the only thing I've had bodywork wise, come over here, these metal grills. So they're metal, so obviously after a while they rust. These kind of bits here split almost, and then you can see the rust in between. But it's a very simple fix. Wire brush, give them a good going over, mask it off, and then there's a special paint called Hammerite which goes over rust and makes it look as good as new. I do prefer the 400 ones, if I'm honest. Not only are they plastic, but they won't suffer from that problem, and there's obviously treatments that you can do to plastic to keep it going, so it won't go white in the sunlight, etc. But I just think they look a bit nicer as well. So yeah, I've done 5,000 miles in the car this year. As I mentioned, it's on 18,500 miles. That included a trip to the Nürburgring. It was brilliant. As a GT car, it's fantastic. Very, very comfortable. The Recaro seats inside are really, really fantastic things. I sat in it for 7 hours in one stint, 5 hours in one stint. I didn't feel worse for wear, didn't feel tired, didn't have any aches or pains. I went around Nürburgring. Admittedly, it was only one lap because there were crashes, as always happens with the Nürburgring. Suspension was fantastic, handling was fantastic, more than enough power. The car will do 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds, so it's 170 odd miles an hour, so it's more than quick enough in all gears, to be honest with you. I wasn't massively pressing on because it was my first ever trip to Nürburgring, and I want to go on a track day next year, so hopefully I'll be a bit better, and year after that go back to the Nürburgring with this car. Hopefully it will still be in my possession. Mods. So actually, before I go on to mods, how have I found living with it? So I have actually had the golf clubs in the back on quite a few occasions, 2 or 3 occasions. And as discussed before, it is a far bigger boot than people give it credit for. All the reviews I see, people just talk about how it's not a usable boot, but my golf bag is not small. It's not a small golf bag. It's not the biggest one you can get, but it's not small. It fits my daughter's pushchair in there, which again isn't a small pushchair, and it's very good for a weekend car for 3 of us, me and my daughter's 3. So it works very well. As I say, my daughter does come with me, which is why I bought the car. I can use it a lot. She sits in the back. I'm not going to lie and say there's loads of legroom, as per my previous videos. There isn't, but it is ample for a 3-year-old, and my wife's 5'7". I reckon I've got another year and a half with my daughter being able to fit in it. Soon this will be coming out. I'll be putting the back benches back in and putting her in a backless bumper booster seat, and then I expect I'll get more room back as well. So to live with it, it's fantastic. None of the things that I kind of thought might become irritable are irritable. Getting in and out is a lot easier than people give it credit for. Again, you get McLarens, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, which are a real ball ache to get in and out, and then people come into this car and whinge about it. I mean, they've got massive door seals compared to these. So for me, it's not a problem. The tactility of some of the elements of the car aren't ideal. These door switches are pretty cheap. I don't know what car they're from, but they are quite cheap. Is it a massive issue? No, it's not, because you come inside and it's just bloody fantastic, to be honest with you. Every time I look at it, I'm very happy. I do still stand by the fact that the Alcantara pack, or the suede text, or whatever it's called, it makes a massive difference to the experience of the car. So one of the first modifications I did was get a Evora 400 steering wheel. So it has the Alcantara up here, which matches the suede text of the car. It's exactly the same steering wheel that comes in a standard sports racer, but for me it just makes the car feel, again, a little bit more special, and yeah, makes it just nicer to drive. Have I had problems? I have had the light sunshine on that a few times and not been able to see it, but I mean a handful of occasions, so that hasn't been a big problem. The positioning of the switches, most people have talked about that being an issue, but again, it's something you get very familiar with. It's not like you have 50 million switches down there, so you do get very familiar with the ones you need to press. And the tactility of those I actually do like. I think they're quite nice. I like the fact they're aluminium and all that type of stuff. I haven't really had any complaints from my wife either, which is quite nice. She seems to still enjoy it and finds it comfortable for long journeys. She's been in it for an hour or so as well. So that's the first modification I'll talk about. The second modification I have talked about before, but it is these front splitter pieces. So they look a lot nicer in person than they do in pictures and on videos, but they're fantastic. They make the car look a lot more aggressive. The rear diffuser on this car is actually quite aggressive compared to the rest of the car, which is quite soft. So for me, it was something that not only adds protection, and I have scraped it twice, but I think it just adds an extra bit of aggression to the car. I really like the way it looks. The second thing I'll talk about is my most recent modification is these barge boards, or side skirts, or whatever you'd like to call them. I'll go on to the other side where there's more sunlight. But if I hopefully you can see it properly, if I go down like that, you can really see that the line follows through from the splitter to the barge board, and then I'll go down to the rear diffuser in a moment, but follows all the way back to the rear diffuser. So this is literally a piece of aluminium which is just put on the car, and for me it just gives it a lot more visual width. It makes it look lower, it makes it look more aggressive, and again it fits in with the diffuser, which is a bit of a beast. So, you know, the diffuser comes out a long way, it's got big fins on it, and it just really makes the car look that much more aggressive, and ties it all together a bit better, I think. So the third modification is a Larini back box exhaust with a valve. So the standard exhaust is nice, there's nothing really wrong with it, but it wasn't really throaty enough for me. It didn't really match the look of the car. So the Larini valved system is just fantastic. It's very, very quiet. What was it? Very quiet. It's a lot quieter than I expected with the valve closed. You can drive, there's no drone into the cabin at all, and even my wife, who again is far pickier than I said it's absolutely fine, but as soon as you get to about 2,500 revs in sport mode, it opens up and it just sounds fantastic, and it screams, and it gets louder and louder all the way through to the top end of the revs, and it's just bloody fantastic. It sounds really good. The best modification I've made to the car, other than the steering wheel maybe, which is matched. So future plans, what do I actually plan to do in future? So I've got PPF on the car, standard stuff that came from the factory, but also on the front bumper. The PPF is yellowed, and you can really see that. I mean, there's a line there anyway from the dirt, but it's yellowed quite substantially on the back. I don't know if you can get a difference in the colours there. So I'm going to get those replaced to the same paint protection film which I have used on the front, which is called Suntech, and I'm going to get this one which stops there. I'm going to get it extended to the whole panel, just because it makes sense to do so. I'll probably get a paint correction detail at some point, because it's just, you know, it's 3 years old. It's been cleaned by a lot of people. Well, myself and the previous owner lots of times, so there's going to be some issues with the paint. I'm going to get these resprayed, both of them. They've both got some reasonable chips and just some dinks in them, so I'm going to get those resprayed and put paint protection film on those. There's a few chips on the roof I'm going to get touched up. On the front clam I'm going to get touched up. I may get the front clam and roof paint protection film, I'm not sure. Depends how much it's going to cost and what it looks like once it's been touched up, if it's good enough quality, because I don't really want to seal it. And then the roof's got swirls in it, or it doesn't look great. That'd be a bad idea. And then all 4 wheels I'm going to get them refurbished. The 2 100% need it. The back, that one was done very badly. The back left one's actually pretty good, but I'll probably get it done just to make it consistent with the rest of the car. I might get a Comotech kit on it. I'm not sure. It depends how quickly my daughter grows and how long I'm going to keep it, really. But overall, it's an absolute cracker. It's fantastic, and I think what's really nice is people appreciate it. The amount of times I come back to it and there are people standing in front of it taking pictures of it, people driving past on the motorway with their phones recording it. I just went to put air in the tyres when I drove it for the first time in about 3 weeks the other day, and someone pulled up next to me in a Merc SLK, and he just got out and his actual words were, "Wow, that's beautiful. What a beautiful car." He did then say he didn't want to crash in it, but I'm not quite sure what he meant by that. But it's I haven't had any negative comments on it whatsoever. Any. I went to the Nürburgring, pulled up in the petrol station. There's a huge amount. I mean, I'm talking 675 LTs, 911 GT3 RSs. My dad was in a Boxer, mate was in a 911, and the woman behind the counter actually said, again, word beautiful. Not sure if that's the right way to term it, but what a beautiful car. So it's universally liked. Anyway, that's enough. I hope that's been a bit of use to some people, and if you do have one, I really hope you enjoy it as much as I have mine. Okay, bye.